All right. Hello and welcome, folks, to another edition of RSF Radio. I'm your host, Joe Monday, and with me tonight, this is a very special edition. We got the table set, everything ready for a nice family Thanksgiving dinner. Because today, yeah. How you do your stuffing? Because I know some people who are very against inside turkey stuffing.
I get my wife to make it, and then I eat it.
Okay. It comes from out of the wife. That's actually kind of gross. How long does it have to stay in there for?
Well, I don't know if she stuffs herself with the stuffing.
that might be the most crass joke we've made on this show. I just want to point it out. And I feel bad that I was the one that made it. Well, anyway,
I'm
folks,
a good influence.
Yeah. With me tonight on RSF Radio is that voice you were hearing is Pyric and Quasimodox. How you both doing?
Hi.
Hi. All right, Quasi. Well, the table's all set. Today, by the way, is November 23rd, Thanksgiving Day for those who celebrate it.
Are you sure it's the 23rd?
Well, I mean, today will be when people are listening to this podcast. Right now, because we do it live, it technically is not. It's the day before. Because
it both is and isn't.
Yeah, we're in the future and the present, because that's how we do it when we do it live. Well, anyway, folks, to get into things, how we're going to do it today, things will be a little bit different. We typically talk about what's going on in the sub. I kind of don't want to do that today. I've been away on vacation. There's that whole net neutrality thing that's taken over Reddit for this week, so don't worry about that. Hold off until December. I don't know what you want to do with that. That's your own business. That's fine. This is the subs kind of in a way. We've got Capcom Pro Tour coming to a conclusion here, so we'll do big coverage of that next week in preparation for it the following weekend. But this one, CPT is over, man. We're all back on. You can go take a vacation, take some time off if you didn't make it, and get ready for that coming up in December. But for this week, we're just going to talk about things. I talked to people and I was like, hey, let's just come up with a couple topics to what do you want to talk about. Everyone come with a topic. It's a potluck turkey dinner. We're going to start around the horn with names coming up here first. Pyric. So Pyric, what do you want to talk about?
What's up?
What do you want to talk about around the dinner table? I pass it to you.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about, Comcast coming into or Capcom coming into the FGC and just kind of taking over with all the money that they're putting into the CPT. And if that has a good or a bad influence on the long-lasting aspects of the FGC.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say Comcast?
Capcom.
Yeah, and then I corrected myself to Capcom.
Yeah, listen, Quasi, the net neutrality thing has infiltrated our brains. We cannot escape it. But no, I like the question though, Pyric. Thanks for the question from the kids table. I like we sat him aside at the kids, which is always kind of a better place to sit because you don't have that weird.
That was the most screaming she did all night too.
Oh boy, she's being very cute. So that's earlier, but we weren't doing it live then. I like the question though, and I like the idea. So to really dig into what you're talking about is that CPT rules really dictate a lot of how many tournaments are run. It doesn't matter on what location it is. There's certain regulations that you have to meet. Actually, bring up the regulations here while we get into it. Is that the basis of your question? I think, or I guess basically the basis of the topic.
Yeah, that's where all this comes to a head is the tournament organizers have built up their own rules over the years as to what makes sense to them, and now there's this outside entity coming in to say, hey, if we give you this bunch of money, will you abide by these concessions?
Yeah, and it's interesting to me to see, maybe not this year, because I don't think they've really overstepped their bounds. So this is kind of a weird thing, right? This is a weird thing to talk about because they've come in. It's their game, really. So they're coming in, promoting their game, but also saying, here's a couple of little rules. They haven't really overstepped their bounds. They've got, you have to stream it on their streams. It has to be a certain way. There's a certain level of production you're expected to have if you run those events. But they haven't done like damning things that would, I don't know, be exclusive to new tournaments coming into the tour. I don't think, not quite yet. I could be wrong on that. So
yeah, like
have any opinion on
there's
that?
nothing like you know, reactively that we need to you know, take care of that they've done. It's just, you know, can this sort of thing hurt the FGC? Because the FGC has always been, you know, its own game and always been doing its own thing. You know, is it even is it strong enough to withstand a game doing great and having everything go well, or is it strong enough to withstand a game doing poorly with all that outside influence?
But Capcom doesn't. I mean, it's not just Capcom's game. I mean, other tournaments also host, you know, like Guilty Gears, KOF. So it's not just Capcom though.
I think that's kind of an added benefit though to those games, because they've given these events that are on the tour that are not just Capcom based and not just Street Fighter based or not even Marvel based, but it highlights those events to, I guess, another level, which might get more exposure to other games that are not Capcom games, which is kind of a side benefit for the FGC as a whole. Like, it's good for Tekken, even though Tekken doesn't, you know, Tekken's not part of the CPT.
Smash.
It's not, yeah, Smash. It helps those games too, in some sense. They're not being streamed on the official Capcom streams, but they are being
part of the tournament.
Yeah, they're a part of the tournament. They're a part of the experience. There's vendors there selling stuff for fans of Smash Brothers or fans of Tekken. There's people who have that certain investment into the FGC as a whole who are benefiting from the extra coverage of Capcom Pro Tour.
Yeah, and Capcom, I mean, Pro Tour brings a lot of money. I think pro players live on that.
That's something I haven't really looked into and I've really thought about yet. Is maybe I should talk to someone about this. Maybe give some interviews about finances and financial decisions. But
is the money bringing in better quality talent to more tournaments? Like, is it making the talent more broad?
Well, I mean, take Punk as an example. I mean, nobody knew him until like what last year, Red Bull, right? I mean, he didn't start. He was mostly playing online, but then not until I think it was last year, Red Bull, was it?
A lot of people knew him from online in the A4, on the A4 team. But that was like a year before he came, or that was a couple years before. Yeah, back in Street Fighter 4 days even. How long has it been in Street Fighter 5? How long has this game been out?
Nearly 2 years.
Has it almost been 2 years? Man.
Yeah.
That's kind of hitting me in a weird way. Ugh. I know that like my reaction seems bad. I mean, it's
bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah, ooh, man, I had a bite of turkey and that was from like last year. Damn. Oh boy. No, like that seems that just seems odd because it doesn't feel
You gotta talk about good stuff.
I know, and the CPT is definitely, it has advanced over that year. I guess that's the other thing. Like last year, it didn't. at least to me, seemed like it had the momentum that it has this year. And I think a lot of that is in part to, I think Capcom's they're like coming out of their shell just recently even, which is why the 2 years thing feels weird to me, because when Street Fighter V came out, we were all begging them to, like, please interact with the community more, please be a part of it, but it hasn't really even been until maybe 2-3 months ago, where it was about when they did the update to the CFN website. Gosh, when was that? Was that
just a few months ago, I think?
Yeah. Was that in May, or was that too early? We talked about it when this podcast started, so it was at least like 10-ish weeks ago. But to me, it feels like they're all in behind it now, because I think the CFN right now, I think that website is good.
Yeah, pretty good.
At least in terms of the information that it gives you. I think, like, design-wise, it's kind of a mess, but
nah, the friend data is wrong though, according to Hudson.
Oh yeah. Don't trust like any of that bullshit. But like the information that does, not like technical information, you definitely should go other places to get your, if you want to learn how to play fighting games. And I think that's part of what Pierre was talking about. If you want to actually learn how to play fighting games, it's not really ever been in the games that teaches you how to play. It's really only been the people who do the best and advance the most and go the farthest are people who are showing up at these local tournaments, showing up at these tournaments that aren't on the CPT. They're the people.
That's a good point. Maybe that's the background or the backbone. You know, like there's no possible way that there could ever be, you know, good or bad, any sort of corporate takeover, because that backbone still exists.
Mm-hmm. Like,
everybody's got to learn somewhere.
I remember.
Go ahead, Quasi.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember watching Alex Valle talk about that fighting game community has a very strong. What do you call it? How do you call it? Grassroots.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he was talking about it, and I think that's one of, because actually FGC is one of the oldest community. I mean, game community, I think. So it's very hard for Capcom just overtake it.
Yeah, my fear was that, like, if, you know, something came up where they just didn't want to fund the CPT for a year or something like that, it would create like a vacuum that would be hard to fill. But, you know, if you really think about, people can make a name for themselves in 1 year easily, start from nothing and come back. So they gotta come from nothing somewhere. Yeah,
I guess that's. I think that's the point that I think you're trying to make. I don't know if we've really stuck the landing on that one yet, but there's a level of involvement outside of the game as it exists on whatever console you played on whatever online service you played on.
Yeah, it's integral to the game. Yeah,
to actually be like the best player and compete with the best players, you can't, at least today, you can't spend your time alone. You have to search outside of the game. The net play isn't strong enough to. It will get you to a good point. You can become a very strong player from net play. Online warriors are definitely a thing, and you can come out and turn up at an event and perform well. Like possibly win it, but that is often a stretch, given the skill level of some of the top killers out there who have been playing in live tournaments for the all year in the CPT. So I think because of that, I think that's the limiter, is that the online experience is not capable of bringing you to the next level of being competitive at a, let's say, global level. Evo will happen regardless of what happens to the CPT, right? Like if they pull out, or they don't have any funding or promotion for, let's say next year they just go all Monster Hunter, and they're like, well, we don't have any money for anything else.
Put Monster Hunter at Evo.
Put Monster Hunter at Evo.
That's pretty cool.
Monster Hunter is the best fighting game of Evo. So says, I don't know, Capcom this year. No, but I mean, you get my point though, where it's gonna happen, right? So to win Evo, let's say, or be competitive at Evo, you can't just play the game online or learn from things that exist solely in the game. So that's the other thing. Like, it can't be a solo work, right? You have to search online for things to help you become better. There's just not enough information in the game to help you, in any game, to really help you get to that next level of competitiveness. Like, if you want to find out all the option selects for your character, or like matchup specific stuff, you might have to look online. Even, like, at the very least, you would have to look online, maybe at our Street Fighter or something like that. Maybe go to a website like that to check out what's going on and what the current meta is for the game. I'm sorry, I should say this is the only podcast filmed in front of a live studio audience. It's the only one that ever exists. Sorry about that. Okay, there it is. Calm down.
I can make my baby cry, but you don't want that.
Calm down. We're having a nice family dinner. It's Thanksgiving. Don't ruin Thanksgiving. Don't ruin Thanksgiving with your lewdness.
Politics?
Not on this podcast. All right. But I guess to wrap it up in a way, I don't think, unless anyone else has any like closing topics or ideas for this one, but I don't think that the CPT being a part in investing in the FGC, I can see in situations where it could be a bad thing. Let's say they make certain regulations which then excludes communities from ever becoming a part of the CPT, or at least getting to that level of being able to bring in top players, because viewers follow top players. That's a lot of the reasons why people watch those events, well-run events. Does it look good, things like that.
Or Big E.
Exactly. So it's just, those events will happen, and there's nothing in the rule set of the CPT which is all that exclusive, let's say, or is that the correct term? Am I using that correctly? It's not creating that much of a barrier, let's say, to other smaller communities to, or at least communities that are up and coming, to reach that stage. But I can see where it might cross the line. Like, I'm trying to look in the rules right now if there's any, like, seeding is a thing. Let's see, they've got like rules on player eligibility.
Yeah, so far, like, there really hasn't been any rules that really screw up what we've come to love.
No thuggery?
I'm just, well, they retracted that even.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, like right after it happened. It's just been a really good meme ever since.
So thuggery is allowed now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually going to be the crazy thing, right?
Just probably not for commentators, but
no, that's not going to be fun at all. Let's see. Well, here's a rule, for example, that is like could prevent someone from playing. Full-time Twitch employees who are directly involved with the CPT may not participate in any tournament on the CPT. It makes sense if you're involved in the event in some way, but also would not allow you to compete, which, yeah, it's kind of sucky. Another rule, for example...
That's what happened to Gamer B. Gamer B, he's actually in charge of the tournament in Taiwan, but then he can't compete.
And he wasn't eligible for those
I think he has to disqualify himself or something like that. I forgot.
Or another rule, for example, I guess this isn't that big because there's a addendum, not an addendum, but a note to this rule. But player eligibility of all of individuals must be 13 years or older. But if you are a minor, then you can have a parent or legal guardian there to participate, to both register and participate in the CPT. So, like, I think back to, like, Noah, right? Remember that 8-year-old who showed up, like...
Oh, yeah, that was sick.
He might be 13 now, now I think about it. How long ago was that? Is he 13 yet?
That was 13 or 14?
Yeah, but the point is that, like, he wouldn't be able to register himself or whatever, but I don't know. 8-year-olds, man. 8-year-olds, dude. And then there's, like, code of conduct, right? And this hasn't necessarily... has this come into play yet?
Yeah, well, the biggest, like, one of the biggest things that, like, was always a thing is money matches and just betting on other people at the tournament. And Valle specifically has cracked down on that just by himself. But then it's also against the Capcom rules. And hey, that might be a good change to not have betting on the side, because it's probably illegal.
I mean...
But nobody cares about $10.
No, it's... I mean, that's... you can't call it, like,
you have
illegal,
money matches
right?
like $5,000, though.
Well, but there's... those are, like, special events. We're just talking about, like, I got $10 on this guy kind of stuff that happens on the side or whatever. That's not, like, illegal. You could call that, like, illegal. That's just, like, putting money down in, like, a friendly bet, let's say. A friendly wager.
Sure.
But according to CPT rules, like, that's technically not allowed. So you can't have that. Or, like, here's the 10 things, the code of conduct of the CPT. And I feel like we've kind of taken this a different avenue, but I kind of want to cover this a little bit. But if you think about this, let's take these to the extreme. They are not to the extreme level, but let's, like, take it to extreme levels of, you know, enforcement, let's say. But
yeah, like, fortunately they haven't done that, and they could have.
Right. Exactly. I think that's the heart of, I think, this topic. But swearing, screaming, or threats. I mean, that's number one, which I don't know if you've, like, been to an FGC event, but all three of those things happen in pools, like, all the time. They happen.
You can do it in one sentence.
Yeah, you could do all three of those things. Listen, I have done all three of those things in a single sentence, because I am efficient when it comes to breaking the rules. But that's number one. Harassment makes sense. Violence makes sense. Collusion, obviously against the rules. Cheating of any sort through any means. Intentionally delaying or slowing gameplay. Intentionally disconnecting network cables. Intentionally interrupting network connectivity. Any other known or unknown manner of tampering with gameplay. Or any other type of conduct deemed inappropriate at Capcom's sole discretion. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, that one's they've never applied that, as far as I know. Right.
So a lot of those rules make sense, but if you think about number one, like, if someone's harassing someone at a CPT event, obviously, at any event, any FGC event, obviously, out of here. If there's violence, cut that shit out. You gotta go. But swearing, screaming, or threats, that is... I mean, threats in like, I mean that in the most jovial of ways, right? Like,
yeah, sure.
My,
well, it's like the law for threats. There's like actual law in the book, and it has to be specific, and that's probably what they're going for there.
I mean, that is probably true, but like, I'm gonna stand behind my guy who's lands cardboard, gets a win. I'll be like, yeah, fuck him up. And that's one I will yell that. So that's all three of those things. Does that disqualify me, or that like that's like obviously not. That would be crazy if that happened at an event. That would be insane. But the fact of the matter is that it's in the rules, right? Could you have someone that's like being a stickler? Like he screamed at me a swear. He screamed a swear at me. And then, and like, what happens? I don't know, but like, obviously, it's not a problem, and it's never been a problem. And the people who are running these events are from the FGC, so obviously, it's going to have that. Like, they're going to protect their event more than they're going to protect the CPT, I think. Or at least their event will come first, because it's not just Capcom games, right? You'll honor Capcom's wishes in a lot of senses. You'll cater to how they want, their game displayed, so to speak. Like, if Capcom says you need to change costume because this is going to Disney Channel, it's a thing that they can dictate, right?
Yeah, and that's more like, the Disney Channel dictating to Capcom rather than Capcom dictating to the FGC.
Right. But that's where they're stepping in and saying, you need to change it, right? And that's not crazy. Like, it's not insane. It's not ruining anyone's meal here. The meal's fine. Thanksgiving dinner is still on. We're still good. But I think overall, it is a net boon to the entirety of the FGC, because I think just for the sole fact that it helps other games, it helps promote different events in different local scenes, and it helps promote like the FGC as a whole, even outside of Capcom games, just by proxy. And I think that's ultimately a good thing.
You know what it might do in addition to that?
What's that?
Like, it's even while it's promoting these other games and naturally just bringing more people into the scene just by having people there and letting them watch other games, it's going to make those other games and also Capcom themselves get better at talking to people that aren't hardcore FGC.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Because those people are just going to be at the events now.
Quasi, any closing thoughts on that topic?
I agree. So yeah, I think that's a good tactic to get people, notice your games and get familiar with, Street Fighter, basically.
All right. Well, I'll let you have the last word on that one, and I'll let you have the first word on your topic. What have you brought to the table, Quasi? Potluck Thanksgiving dinner.
I was thinking about, Joe. You probably didn't see the Red Bull last qualifier, but you guys, I don't know if you, Pyric, did you see how Cool Kids and his wife Joy, they were cheering and stuff?
No, but I remember when L.I. Joe's dad was cheering at Evo, and that was on TV and whatnot.
Oh, that's a different kind of cheering, though.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
it's very true.
I don't know. You're probably seeing some footage that Cool Kid's wife cheering, and there was during the match with between Cool Kids and 801 Strider. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't really hear what Joey was screaming at, but on the footage, you can actually see Joey was screaming at AO1 Striders, and well, he took it well. But I'm just curious, like, you know, trash talking. It's very common in sports, not just Street Fighter, but at which point do you think it's maybe a little bit overboard or maybe toxic?
Ah, okay. I see where you're going with this topic, because I think that what happened there, like, I did watch those clips, and I just think that's all good fun. It's great to have.
I have to say, I
feel like that example is that's a very lighthearted example. I feel, because everyone at that was having a good time. Everyone was having a good time.
Yeah, they're entertainers. It's entertainment.
But, and this is kind of an oldie but a goodie in terms of FGC topics, but trash talking and toxicity. Remember a couple months back, it was the thuggery of the FGC. People were concerned about the thuggery. In a lot of cases, just...
And back in the day, you'd have, like, your groups of people would go to the events, and your guys would be just, yelling and screaming behind your match that you're used to, but then your opponent might not be used to them yelling and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for example, like, also another example, like K-Bread and Wolfcrow. I mean, it's a good way to build up the story. Or like low tier guy with Veskin. So I mean, there's a lot of it hypes up the event, but at which point do you think it might not be good on the long term? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think that might be self-correcting, because the community is going to call those people out with just as much vitriol as they try to push down on somebody else if they do it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good, and I was going to bring this that example up of, I forget the exact event, but K-Brad and Wolfcrone, where it wasn't a CPT event, right? Because there was a ton of people sitting right behind them at the time.
E-League. Was it E-League?
What? No. That was get the security guard off stage. That was just.
Oh, that was
just a show. That was just a goof, right? Like that. Well, nothing was ever going to happen. But it was an event before that, or it might have been immediately following that. Where K-Brad and Wolfcrown were playing, a lot of people behind K-Brad screaming, and then and K-Brad won, but the response to that from Wolfcrown was along the lines of, if I don't have people at my back like that shoving me or yelling at me during a game, then you're free every day. And then I think he went on to beat him at E-League or something like that. That was the case. Right?
Right, I remember the K-Brad was yelling at Wolfcrown to his face, actually.
Yeah, I think that was the order of events. And I think it was around E-League, or I could just be in the sick fever dream right now. Which, by the way, folks, if I am sounding a little bit nasally, I haven't brought this up yet, but I've brought to Thanksgiving a terrible head cold wrought on by hours of being in a plane. So that's what I've brought to Thanksgiving dinner. Cough all over your grits. How you like that? How you like these biscuits?
You know what helps that?
Now?
Whiskey.
God, I can't even imagine doing that right now. I'm fluid already as it is. I can't. I mean, you're not wrong. Like, a good hot toddy would be like, I will do that occasionally, but the way that
put some whiskey in a neti pot, shove it through your nose.
No one puts whiskey in a neti pot. That sounds it's disgusting. The idea of a neti pot in general disgusts me. Like, I can't even think about the science behind that. Which, speaking of neti pot, I don't know if you've ever seen like that one commercial for a neti pot, but like the lady's face who looks like a robot's face, like the plastic skin and just the way that she tilts her head is memorable, let's say.
And then she says, "Come with me if you want to live."
No, and the water comes like out her mouth, and it's just like, oh boy. And I can't imagine doing that with whiskey. I don't want to die, Pirik. That's horrifying.
Well, it either burns or you get drunk, and either one of those might be better than the drip.
All right, so let me Google right now. Can I get drunk from whiskey neti pot? Yes, turns out, yeah, you totally can. It's actually the fastest. It's very dangerous to get drunk by whiskey neti pot. Look out. Goes directly to the brain, head on. No. But, dude, I'm like physically thinking about how that, and it is making me shudder on the inside, but I can't even think about doing that. But no, just it's trash talking the FTC, man. It's all good until it gets to the point where the breaking point of like somewhat violence, and I feel like a lot of like most of all of the major events have taken care of that. There's enough security involved. There's, you know, the community itself is large enough to really nip that one in the bud. You will see little bits and we saw little bits and pieces of it earlier this year, but I just don't see it being another huge problem. I do see that being somewhat of a problem for people who aren't used to that type of treatment at events, let's say. Because let's say I just picked up Street Fighter 5. I've just learned my first combos, and I also happen to live in a city where there's a big CPT event. And does the game tell you when CPT events are happening? Do they have a schedule in game?
Yeah, they do. They do pop it out before you. I mean, when you load the game, actually.
Okay, let's say it loads up and says, "Oh my gosh, right down the street, there's a CPT event for me. I'll take my day 2 bison and go." They say it's for free. I can go for free. Maybe entry is like $20 or so bucks, whatever. But let's take that person, and no, that's actually a bad example. That's actually a bad example because people in the FTC are not rude to new players. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen a skilled player dunk on a newer or unskilled player and then flex so hard as to shove them away. I have never personally seen that. If you've personally seen that, maybe write in about that and share that story. But I've never been witness to that. In
person, no, but
because like, I mean, think about like I think about shit. What was his name? It was 801 Strider and Farts. Who is that kid that he beat on stream? God, it's gonna kill me. Because he was like, he like flexed on him, but it was like in a fun, silly way, and they had like a fun Twitter war after that. And 801 Strider is a great guy, by the way. Just full disclosure on this story. But he put on a little bit of a show after beating this kid. And like that's like the extreme case, but the kid was like playing into it, and it was like it was good fun. It made for good TV. But it wasn't serious. He wasn't seriously flexing on the kid. And he wasn't trying to make him feel bad, right?
Was it during Evo Pool or something?
Yes. Evo.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
But
he's a young kid.
I don't see that. But what I do see is someone who's proven to themselves that they're an online warrior. They've never gone outside of online, showing up at an event thinking that they should body people and then just complaining out the ass whenever they get beat by someone, and then in winner's side, and then in loser's side, let's say your friends come in and say like, "Hey, just screw this guy up because he's obviously, you know, throwing shade on people who already beat him, so he's chump." That might happen. I feel, but even that doesn't really get out of hand, does it?
I don't think that happens often.
Beard. Skullser, by the way. 801 Strider and Skullser. Skullser with a Z. He even did like a fun grudge match in Street Fighter V the year after. It's good fun. But I don't know. It hasn't. You haven't really seen that rear its head lately. I don't think that's been a problem.
Do you consider the online community part of the FGC? I mean, no. I mean this. No. What I meant was like, okay, so you would see people with Smurf's account and kicking noobs' ass online and teabag them and stuff. Do you think that's rude, right? Would you think?
See, I suppose that the now you bring that up, because I've seen people complain a lot about that in the Discord, and in online forums of new players coming in, getting beat by Smurf accounts, and then experienced players saying, "Hey, don't worry about it. Like points, especially, it don't matter." But they're still like real hurt about it, and they're not ready to hear that it doesn't matter, because to them it does matter. To them it was the most important day of their life, but to the other person it was Tuesday.
Yeah, it's tough because I mean everybody's going to be insulted by something, and you don't really know what that's going to be. Like, teabagging's in every game. Throwing fireballs is part of Street Fighter, so there's always doing taunts is part of Street Fighter.
Yeah, the taunt is in the game.
All these stuff are in the game, so anything online that could happen to you is just in your own head.
And I feel like this is unfortunate, but unfortunately, there's not a really good way to communicate in game in Street Fighter V.
Yeah, that's pretty raw.
We had that in 4, and those were the best of times.
They made the best Reddit posts.
They did. You have to try really hard to get stuff like that, because you have to find the person and you can basically only do this through Steam. I don't know if there's a way to do it through PS4.
I had someone that actually added me on Steam and just trying to hate on me.
Yeah, or invite. My favorite is the invite you to a group, but the group is like take your scrubby Ryu, or like.
Oh really?
That's the actual name of the group.
Yeah, the name of the group is lewd in a lot of ways. It breaks rule 1 of the CPT harassment. It breaks all that in one sentence. Sentence, more like word soup of slurs. I've seen that, and that's great. That's choice when you make someone feel that way. But I think you're right, though. In some instances, whenever more experienced players will beat up on a newer player, someone who doesn't know what they're doing, and then send them a message afterwards, or like be that way about it. As we've actually seen people like that ask on the sub, like, why would someone taunt if they're like obviously better than me, and when they beat me, like, why would they do that? And it's shit, man. It's video games. Like, it ain't right, and it doesn't help you get better as a player. It doesn't encourage you to get better as a player to have someone flex on you like that. But I don't know. That's tough, because that's just gonna happen.
I think it's just very simple how real world compared to the internet. People tend to be more respectful in real life. A lot of things that you would say to another person on internet, you probably wouldn't do it face to face. So it's the same in games.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Like, and to that point, like, so that part of it is not FGC. that's like online FGC, which now we're including like Kappa and Salty, which is a different set. There are different rules there that if you're just coming to, this is your first ever fighting game and you experience that kind of stuff, it is alarming. I don't know if there's a good way to like, let's put it this way. I haven't found a good answer to players who experience that and still want to play the game, but I don't quite have the mindset yet of brushing it off and then wanting to learn from that match in some ways, just thinking, I got beat up so hard, I don't know how to win. I'm like, well, there's things we can do here. Did they jump in on you at all? Yeah, they just jumped in. I couldn't anti-air at all. It's like, well, there's your answer. Work on your anti-airs. You could take that route. And a lot of newer players might not have that mentality yet. And the game won't tell you about that mentality either. That's the other thing. The game won't teach you that you made a mistake other than taking away your points. It's brutalistic in that way.
Dude, if there was an AI built in there to like tell you what you did wrong in your previous game.
That
would be groundbreaking.
The thing is, here's all they would need to do is just take the instances, because they recorded the match, right? They have all the inputs, right?
Sure.
Show you the times that you got hit. If you were counter hit, it would just say you pressed a button here and your opponent, had the advantage. Like, a frame trap probably would not be difficult to math out. I mean, it might be, but even if they're just showing you areas where you got hit, like you ate a jump in, right? It could just pop up, because that's obvious of you were hit with a jump in. You might get some weird instances of like instant overhead where it's like anti-air this, and you're like, he jumped immediately, hit me with an overhead. I can't anti-air that. But like, that might happen. I see as like a case where it would show up. But if you eat a jump in, the game should at least be able to tell you, or at least show you, you ate a jump in here. Maybe think about it.
Or if they crowdsource it through the replay channel.
Yeah.
Let people tag timestamps.
Yeah, it's possible. It doesn't say, I mean, I don't know if it's possible. I don't make games. I don't know how hard that would be. It might be extremely difficult, but they have the information there. So the other situation I think that they could do, and I would love to see this in a game, but because they record those inputs, even take a knockdown situation where you're mixed up in some way, just replay, or have a set of, just take a set from timestamp A to timestamp B and just set that to recording slot 1 and just play it out the way that your opponent played it. So let's say they hit you with a sweep, you let them sweep you in that situation and just play back the next 2 seconds or so and say, oh, I just shouldn't quick rise in that situation because I would eat a mix up there. Or, oh, I shouldn't have back rise there because by back rising, he actually got an overhead off of that situation, where if I just quick rise, then he would have whiffed and I could punish that. Things like that, right? Or, oh, that was a cross up, I need to block it. Or let me do my reversal here. Oh, reversal doesn't work here, maybe I should do a crosscut DP. What's a crosscut DP? There's no information in the game that tells me what one is. Maybe I'll ask someone. But that doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility, that you could take point A to point B of your recorded match, have that play out, and adjust. Like,
yeah, I think if they can actually do that, it would be great. So you can practice the same scenario and try to figure out what you did wrong and what will work. That would be awesome.
Right. How did we get onto this topic? I forget how we jumped.
Started with taunts and trash talk.
Yeah, how did we get?
It's new players not
after you get taunted.
Right.
New players taking taunts poorly, let's say, or that part of the online, or that part of, or taking them seriously, or that part of the FGC being unwelcoming, and that's where you'll see unwelcoming stuff. And at events, you just don't see that. You just don't see that. At least not in my experience. But again, if that has been your experience, I encourage you to maybe share that story. I would like to hear it because I'm curious if that is a thing. But I think, all right. So last thoughts on that topic, Pierre.
Well, I think that's it's always going to be a part of it, and it makes the world a better place to be able to speak your mind.
Fair enough. Quasi, what do you think?
And if you're speaking your mind with a tea bag, then more power to you.
What he said.
No. All right. I think for the last topic, I want to bring up, because I just want to get ready for it. We got a couple weeks before we get there, but Capcom Pro Tour is coming to an end. What are your thoughts? Who's going to take it this year? Is Punk going to overcome his demon Tokido and take him out where it really matters, where the money matters? I
think someone's going to come out of left field.
Oh yeah? Do you think maybe like Problem X will show up and stomp some people?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be any of the top guys right now. Anybody high in the point standings.
Ooh, really? What makes you think that? It's because you like chaos?
That might be it.
I mean, I prefer chaos as well. I'm on board with that. But I mean, you can't deny how consistently a lot of these players have played over the course of the year. I think, and I would even say like Problem X is coming into the
Strider's a long shot, Big Bird's a long shot.
Problem X is in.
Oh yeah, he's placed.
Right, he won a lot of tournaments in Europe. Right.
But I think it's one of these guys that isn't too consistent, but still able to perform at the top. I think it's going to go to one of those guys.
Okay. Huh.
That's a good call, actually.
Quasi, what do you think?
I don't know. I just go with the standard answer, either Tokido or Punk, I guess. But I kind of want to see some, Yeah, Problem X. I was really impressed by his Bison.
The reason why I bring up Problem X is I like him, and I think he has a lot of momentum going into the Capcom Cup. But I don't know if his Bison has what it takes. I feel like there's, because people, and here's like my mental.
It's the character or the player?
It's, in my mind, it's the character, because track with me on this. A couple weeks back, there was the most used characters by rank, and Bison was like consistently near the top in the Masters and Ultra Diamond, Platinum ranks. I mean, he's up there. So online, even at a high level, you're probably running into, just percentage-wise, more Bisons. You have a lot of experience with that. That doesn't necessarily get you ready to play against Problem X, because he's the best Bison in the world. That doesn't get you ready for that, per se. You have to play against that character, or that person. But you have, at least in my mind now, you have a familiarity with that character already, to where there's not going to be a ton of surprises, or there's a certain level of expectation about how the neutral's going to go, wake up situations. I don't think Bison's a character who has like huge surprise potential, right? I don't think there's not some weird. He doesn't have. His V-trigger is a pretty good comeback mechanic, actually. Bison's V-trigger is pretty good, but it's not like Laura V-trigger. It's not Balrog V-trigger where you see something go, I don't know about that one, or an Ibuki V-trigger, right? Where it's, that was, the bomb exploded and I actually didn't see what happened there. It's not that kind of situation, and because of that, let's put it this way, I'd like to see him go far, but I don't expect the caliber of players that are showing up let's say I expect them to have the matchup knowledge, at least, and the experience that I can see him top 8. I can see him being top 8. He'll be away from home. He'll be traveling at the time, and that's Europe to Anaheim that's a long trip.
All right, so who's your big call then?
I'm just gonna say this one because we haven't seen him play, I guess, at the tippy top of his game. But my dark horse in this one is actually Fudo. I love Fudo with Armika. Specifically with Armika. I think he's gonna go Armika all the way. And I would just love to see Fudo take that big W. He's gotten so many second places recently.
He's got one of the best smiles in the biz. If you can make him smile, that's a good thing to wish for.
Yeah, and also because he's my wife's
your wife's favorite.
He's my wife's favorite character. How you feel about Fudo?
Woo! Let's go,
I knew you were gonna say that.
Listen, this is the only podcast filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Hey.
That's a fact. It's the only one. I've also muted the audience so you can't hear them. But Brick he's yipping very loudly at the prospect of Fudo winning the Capcom Cup. And I think when Mika wins, it's fun to watch. I would like to see that happen. Because I like the way he plays. I think he's a super smart player. And I think he's doing really well with a character that got hit with kind of a nerf stick, but still capable of doing some really nutso mix-ups, which I like and it's exciting. And I don't know. I had a gut feeling that it's Fudo's time this year. He's been Mr. Second Place for too long. It's been number 2 on the books, but number 1 in my heart. And I want to see it happen. I know he's ranked pretty high
Actually,
right now, but I want to see it happen.
Fudo has been number 1 in Street Fighter 4, but
Correct.
I think Tokido, just like Tokido, always number 2.
Yeah, that's true. He was number 2 for a while, but I mean,
historically,
that's kind of not true if you look back at like big majors in the past. But recently, let's say in Street Fighter 5, I just like the way Fudo plays, and I just want to see it happen. I want it to be real. I want to see him hoist that trophy. Yeah, but then there's also I don't know, part of me wants America to take it, right? Like you got to have that American heart of seeing the underdog come from, like, the quote unquote underdog come from. Punk is not the underdog, really. Like, I think that he's in the mind space right now where he could definitely.
Well, I mean, last
win.
year was only NuckleDo was our only chance.
Right.
This year we got 2 chances.
There's a lot more on the board this time. That's not just 2, is it? There's more than 2.
It depends if you're looking. It depends on how you're looking at it.
All right. But yeah, the chances of winning. But I don't know. A part of you has to say you have to have that certain American pride. At least I feel that way, because you want to see an American take a big tournament like that. with big international competition, the best international competition. But Fudo though, that would make me smile on the inside. That's like the big dessert. I got my, if I could just have my pecan pie, get a little Cool Whip
with whipped cream or Cool Whip. Cool
Whip, obviously, that's been sitting in the freezer. You gotta cool that stuff. You gotta make it extra cold. Oh, Cool Whip for.
So when you spoon out your
perfect.
Cool Whip, do you spoon it out like solid, or do you put it in the microwave a little bit?
It's like ice cream. I like my Cool Whip. That's what's basically ice cream, but Cool Whip.
Wait, who microwave Cool Whip?
Well, I mean,
I've seen it done before.
That's you run a risky game there if you're gonna have your rock solid. I mean, you don't want to keep it in the. You time it out right, man. You keep it in the freezer. Then, like, once you start the dinner, you take it out, and by then it's been sitting in room temperature. It's gonna be like that Wendy's Frosty kind of. It'll be a little bit more solid than that a little bit, but it's gonna be good. Trust me, it'll be good.
Learning new things every day.
So Fudo is your pumpkin, or is your pecan pie, and who's your pumpkin pie? Like, who's your second choice? Is it going to be USA?
Pie, yeah, Punk's my pumpkin pie.
Yeah,
like, because it's gonna be there. He's gonna be doing good, but from my heart of hearts, I really want that pecan pie. Sick of pumpkin winning everything. Sick of this pumpkin.
Next year
flavor.
it'll be pecan spice lattes.
Actually, hell yeah! Where's like my
Fudo wins.
Yeah, man, pecan pie though. Am I the only one in the room right now that's like not that ranks pecan pie over pumpkin pie?
Well, you know what? If you're talking standard pumpkin pie, sure, but I got a secret. My wife makes a pumpkin pie cheesecake.
How is that different from just pumpkin pie?
Because it's a cheesecake and then some just pumpkin pie on top.
Cheesy pumpkin.
And it's basically just cheesecake at that point.
That sounds like some wizardry. Baking is basically wizardry to me. I don't quite understand it, and your wife is a witch. She's a witch. Does she float?
But actually, with
She's
pumpkin
a witch.
pie, pumpkin pie tastes mostly just the cinnamon. I have no idea what pumpkin actually tastes like.
Yeah, it's actually like that's actually the funny thing is that it's the pumpkin spice that you're tasting. It's that like allspice. And the mixture of spices that you're actually tasting in the pumpkin flavored things, and not actually the flavor of pumpkin.
Right.
Have you grilled up pumpkin seeds, quasi?
Yeah, you ever done that?
No,
That's
You just
better.
put them on a baking tray and then throw them in the oven?
Mhm.
I never tried that.
Oh, never? And you throw a little salt on that? Oh, it's so good. They're so good.
So it's supposed to be salty.
Oh, you can make them
Just
salty.
some kind of spice, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll try that sometime.
I mean, what kind of seasoning? How do you season your nuts?
Salt.
How do you prefer your nuts seasoned?
With garlic.
I get down with garlic nuts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll just about wrap it up. We've had our desserts. We've finished our dinner. Go watch some.
I'm way too full.
Some American football.
Whipped cream.
No,
nuts.
screw it. It's football. Just football. We're gonna watch the football. Screw people who say no. It's football here.
If soccer was on after Thanksgiving dinner, then I'd watch that.
It's soccer. The English invented that word too, so don't let them throw that back in your face. By the way, that's a whole other conversation.
American pride.
So when we watch the football, I don't really like football, but I'll watch it. I'll watch it on Thanksgiving after the parade. It's all good stuff. But that does it though. We're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna head out for the night. By the way, folks, go down the list. Pierrick, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you?
Right on. They can't find me anywhere.
Word. I respect that. Ghost after this. Just like my dad after Thanksgiving.
You can hit me up anywhere, and I won't respond.
He's gone. He was. I like redact that. My father's actually a great man, by the way. For the record, I want it to be known that was a joke. That's what we call a joke in the industry, and that my father is a great man. Quasi, where can people find you?
On the sub, Quasimodo X. On Twitter, Quasimodo X.
I've been liking your Twitter game so far. People should follow you on Twitter for your hot memes.
Thank you very much, sir.
When you sling a meme, it's spicy meme. That is a garlic salted meme that you've thrown.
I try my best.
It's a my pumpkin spice memes are unmatched.
Hey.
All right, and I'm Joe Monday. You can find me at Super Joe Monday on Twitter or Joe_Monday on the sub. That's our Street Fighter. That will do it for a very Thanksgiving episode of RSF Radio. Take care, folks. We'll be back next week with a pretty much a much bigger breakdown of the CPT, maybe as a whole. We'll get maybe some different panel people. See what I can do about Michael Martin. But anyway, that does it, folks. Take care. Till next time. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.